So in this video we're going to have a look at how to represent inequalities on a number line. So we're going to be basically drawing our inequality, representing it with a dot, either that's going to be shaded in or that's going to be open or empty, and then an arrow or a line to indicate the values that x could potentially take. So if we imagine the first inequality that I've got in my example, we've got x is less than 2. So what we know is that basically x can take numbers, any numbers that are less than 2, like for example 1 or 0 or -1 or -2. Any numbers below 2 are going to be included in that inequality. So to show that, what we do is we put a circle above the 2 and then an arrow going down this way to show us that these are all the possible values that x could take. And the reason that I've done an open circle at 2 is to show that 2 itself is not included. X isn't actually allowed to be equal to 2, but it can be any number below 2, even by the smallest amount, like 1.9 or 1.99. That would be included, but 2 itself won't be. So that's just basically showing me that any number from 2, well, not including 2, but below 2, all the way down to basically negative infinity would be a valid value of x. If we take the next inequality, x is greater than or equal to 0, this time we want to include the 0, so we actually then colour in that dot rather than just having it as an empty circle. So we colour it in like that, and then we say that this time x can be any value that's from 0 upwards, so we do an arrow going to the right to show again that x can be any number above 0 or including 0, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and anything in between, decimals, fractions, any number that's bigger than or equal to 0. The last inequality is showing that x is between two numbers. So x is basically between -1 and 1, but it doesn't include the -1 and does include the +1. So to show that, we'll do an open circle at -1 and a closed circle. Just colour that in. And then we just then do a line going between the two. We don't need the arrow there because we're not showing that this line carries on to plus infinity or carries on to minus infinity. It just goes between -1 and 1, and we can draw those 2 points. So that's showing me basically that x can take values of, for example, 0 or 0.5 or -0.7, any numbers between there, and it's also showing me that -1 isn't included and 1 is included. So I'm just going to whiz through another couple of quick examples, and what we want you to do is try and pause the video, just try and imagine very quickly what you think the inequality would be, and then I'll write it down so that you can check if you've got your answer correct. So have a quick look at this one, think about what it would be. This one is going to be x is less than or equal to 3. Next example. This one would be x is greater than 1. Third example. So we haven't seen one like this before. This is two different possibilities. We can see that x is either less than -2 or x is greater than or equal to 0. So we have to just write that as two separate inequalities because that's two different possible rules that x could have. Next example. So this one shows that x is between 3 and 6, so I can write that as a single inequality. X is greater than or equal to 3, but is less than 6. So when it's between two values, you can write it as a single inequality, as opposed to the previous example where it was two separate sections, and you have to write that therefore as two separate inequalities.